wrapping up the MIT conference last week. My partner Zobinar went there. There were two conferences. One is called Future Compute. The other is called EmTech. It's about technology. It's about the latest themes in technology. This is a relatively non-technical conference that is meant for people that are interested in trends, that professionals, investors, VCs, that sort of thing. And there's two big takeaways. One is if you want to do it yourself. In in plain English, if Nvidia wants to proliferate AI in healthcare, Nvidia has to become a healthcare company. And I think this is a theme that has been going on in Silicon Valley for probably 2 decades now. And I just want to reformulate this. Mark Andreessen has spoken about this years ago in the context of Tesla and Uber and companies like that. They all traditionally, Silicon Valley wanted to build tools for corporate America. That's how it started with even Microsoft and then Oracle and these companies. They build tools that other companies use, such as Walmart or JP Morgan and so on and so forth. And that model still works, and there's a lot of companies that do that, but the big $1 trillion market caps are achieved if you do it yourself. And NVIDIA is a perfect example. We have a position in NVIDIA for full disclosure, and that's part of the reason. We believe that NVIDIA will be able to push for proliferation of AI in healthcare because that is a big market. That is a market that lacks entrepreneurship, that lacks risk-taking, that lacks skin in the game, all the things you need to actually make something happen at scale. So this would be the first takeaway. The second takeaway, it's kind of related, but it's why does Larry Page hate Elon Musk? Well, because Musk created an AI company that was supposed to compete with Google, and that company is called OpenAI. Now, irony meets faith. Of course, OpenAI today is a large company that is really actually competing with Google through Microsoft. So that's a twist of events that even Musk couldn't have predicted. And it just shows that you never know, but doing things always has a good end result. It might not be good for you personally, but I think overall the foundation of OpenAI has created the next ImageNet moment, which is the GPT moment. It's going to proliferate AI for better or for worse. People are calling for regulation, people are calling for all kinds of things, but the fact is the field has taken a big step forward. There's new types of knowledge being created, new types of thinking, new angles to look at things. All of those things are good things because they help the field proliferate, they help progress, they help technologies proliferate. And just as a caveat here, of course, we have to be cognizant about this as a society, make sure we don't do something crazy with it. But overall, of course, progress is a good thing, and that is a good example. So those two things are, I think, when we go to these conferences, they are partly there for us to sort of just rub our shoulders with people in the field, make sure we calibrate ourselves. We're not sort of in a vacuum in some sort of ivory tower. And second, also want to learn something. And I think this conference was a good example for both of these objectives achieved. This is not even on podcast. It's May 7, 2023. This is from Telcos. It's the last update. We're up 8%. The market's up 1.8%. For the year, we're up 38.1%. The market's up 8.7%. We're outperforming by 29.4%. Just before I go into the discussion, we had a pretty good macro environment last week with Apple earnings being very strong. We had also good sales data for Tesla in China. So some positive news, I think, particularly as China is concerned. Apple is somewhat a China story. So all these things are, I think, helping Tesla to sort of regain some ground since the production update and the earnings call, which cost the stock roughly, I would say, almost 20%. So those are the good news that helped us, make money last week. I think we're very happy with China coming back to normalcy. It was expected that will happen at some point. COVID hangover and the totalitarian restrictions that were laxed are now showing some positive sign, and I think that's probably the most important message. As far as inflation in the US is concerned, we're definitely not over the hump here. The problem is the government spending, and so on and so forth, and of course the banking crisis, which is sort of related to the interest rate environment, is just complicating things. And we believe that in the end, you will see what the markets are pricing, which is a sort of a creeping bailout of the banking system through the Fed, through some version of QE. They might not call it that way, but that is sort of the base case that we look at. Now let's get to the conversation about the conference that my partner Zovinar attended. This is a wrap. And the two biggest takeaways. Now, number one, let's talk about this in more detail. So if you want to succeed as a tech company and bring technology to a field, you got to do it yourself. This is the message, and it applies to one specific example, and that is NVIDIA. NVIDIA's AI team was at the conference. My colleague Zovinar spoke to them. She discussed in detail what they're planning to do, and the lady that runs that system at NVIDIA is pretty positive, and so on and so forth. But here's the problem. Like, when you sell tools to an industry, you have what we internally call the silver spring effect, and that is inside baseball. It doesn't matter. The effect itself just encompasses the fact that when you sell to an industry that inherently doesn't want to move forward because it threatens the status quo and the power structure of the industry, and that is almost all the industries are like that. So if you have the healthcare industry and you're telling them that you can do drug discovery 10 times cheaper, 10 times faster, well, that sounds great from the outside, and as an investor, you would love that. But you're not really sure if that's good for the people inside the companies, because if you have a big budget now doing drug discovery, lots of people working for you, and I'm telling you, you can cut that budget by 10x, fire most of your people, and use AI, and you have to hire software engineers, and you have to buy NVIDIA technology, and you're going to depend on the NVIDIA consultants that will basically tell you how to do drug discovery in the future. You might not like that. So the power structures change. This is technology innovation, technology disruption 101. So it just happens all the time. When the car got invented and horses got put aside and cars became more prevalent in transportation, people that were using transportation, let's say transportation companies, they all of a sudden relied on car mechanics and experts in oil and gasoline and refining and all that kind of stuff. John Steinbeck writes about this in East of Eden and Grapes, particularly East of Eden and Grapes of Wrath, actually, where sort of the car salesman, the car mechanic, the car this, the car that is the big new kid on the block, and you depend on them, you depend on their knowledge, and the power structures in existing industries change. And that's happening across every industry that is being proliferated with new technology. So the same applies to healthcare, and that's why there is resistance. So what you have right now, look, you have adoption. Clearly, if you look at the bits used and the bits bought and the whatever, if you just look at plain volume, even sales numbers of, let's say, NVIDIA selling into the healthcare industry, those numbers are growing. But they're not growing at a clip that they should be growing. In other words, if you really look at the healthcare industry today and you ask yourself, okay, how much AI is being used, how much linear algebra is being deployed towards solving healthcare problems, I think we're probably just scratching the surface, because we should be using a lot more. But we're not using a lot more for all the reasons I just mentioned before: the power structure and the status quo in the industry, and all those sort of things. They are inherently, they don't want to change. People just don't want to change because it threatens their livelihood, it threatens their power structure that they're embedded in. Now, of course, having said that, whenever a power structure is in threat, that means that some people also have a prospect to gain power. And that's the young people, the people from outside that want to penetrate in the industry, even startups, although that the biggest obstacle for competitive progress, what I call competitive progress. What I mean with that is, okay, if you don't get the progress from within, if Pfizer or Roche doesn't want to change, then you'll get startups, you'll get the CRISPR companies, you get Intellia and companies like that. They'll just do it. Well, that is not so easy in healthcare because we have regulation, we have FDA, we have all of that. So they made sure that progress cannot happen at a clip of the pace of the startup, but it's going to happen at the clip of the pace that the regulator allows to. By the way, that's something also car companies are trying to implement now at the self-driving car side of things, where they're trying to sort of slow down the progress of Tesla by forcing them to abide to rules which are more or less designed to keep progress at a slower pace, or even stop it, so the others can, potentially you might think they want to catch up, but typically they're not catching up. They just don't want progress because they are not in the position to even catch up. So back to healthcare. So the only way you can break this, and this is, Tesla's the best example, okay? Tesla and SpaceX, all the Elon Musk companies are a perfect example of my thesis here, which is if you want to really proliferate the technology, you have to do it yourself. If SpaceX wants to build reusable rockets and fly satellites at scale for 10 times cheaper into space, they could have sold technology to Boeing and those sort of companies, but that would have never worked because, again, all the power structure and all the stuff I just mentioned before. However, they did it themselves, and look where they are today. Tesla, same thing. I think initially, actually, Tesla as a propulsion company wanted to sell propulsion technology to Daimler and Toyota, and they quickly realized that that's not going to work. Tesla today is a transportation technology company. So if Nvidia wants to proliferate AI, they have to push it themselves. They have to become a healthcare company. Excuse me. If Nvidia wants to proliferate AI in healthcare, they have to become a healthcare company. Now, how does that actually work? If I had half an hour for a coffee with Jensen Huang, this is what I would tell him. Jensen, look, find places where you can sort of start iterating fast and get products to market. There has to be places, low-hanging fruits, places where you can actually build a sales force, research and development, technology, all of that stuff. You have the capital, whatever it is, painkillers or something. It doesn't have to be cancer drugs. It can be, something for itching or a low intensity drug that solves a problem. Then you go from there, you solve more complicated problems, attack diabetes, heart failure. You keep iterating, you'll find stuff, because AI allows you to solve multidimensional problems, which is exactly what healthcare is. So in short, find a beachhead and then grow yourself through iteration and proliferation in the market. That's exactly how you did it with gaming. That's how you did it with using GPUs in the data center. So just use that blueprint within AI, within healthcare, and become a healthcare AI company. Causes for diseases on the research front, and then from there you go to drug discovery. So those are two things that I could just think on top of my head. But I'm sure if somebody like Jensen Huang, who's built a $600-700 billion market cap company with his own out of nothing, if he sits down and looks at this, and he'll pretty quickly find places where he can go. The point is this: look, it's the same with Amazon. It's the same with all these companies that have created massive market value. If Amazon wanted to sell technology to Walmart so that online commerce can proliferate, we would still be basically using dial-up, and nobody would be using online commerce. However, they did it themselves. So again, like like Amazon's a good example. They started selling books. Today, you can buy pretty much anything on Amazon. So this is the same idea, and I'm pretty sure Jensen Huang can do this. What it takes is a rethink on top. It starts with the CEO, the founder, the guy who runs the company, and then it proliferates throughout the organization. So this would be my first takeaway, that we, in the discussions with Zovinar, I think this is definitely something that crystallized out of this conference. The second is, why does Larry Page hate Elon Musk? Now, this is something for the gossip columns of Silicon Valley media, but it's more depth, it's more deep than that, because what it also says is what OpenAI means today, why OpenAI exists, and what AI actually means today, and what the backlash against AI really means. Well, all these things are related. So let's go back, just give a quick story. So we have Google is early 2000s. Google is starting to become the first algorithmic solution in the search problem, and it seems to work. It's the first AI company as we know it. In the history books, will confirm that. The first AI company, AI as we know it today, which is an optimization algorithm used to solve certain problems, and it gets better the more you use it. That kind of thing. Google's the first one. Larry Page sees that, gets excited, and sees the future of AI even much, much further out than people saw in the early 2000s. Another person that sees that is Elon Musk. They're good friends. They sleep on each other's couches, all that kind of stuff. And Musk says, look, you got to be careful with AI. This is a dangerous thing. Google says, look, we have a mantra, don't be evil, we'll be fine. There's a little bit of back and forth. In the end, Larry Page calls Musk a speciesist. So he says, listen, you're telling me that AI is dangerous, but that assumes it's dangerous for humans. But why should we stop at humans? I mean, AI can have their own lives and its own sort of life and its own existence and stuff like that. And there's nothing wrong with that. The conversation goes along those lines. And then what does Musk do? He's the co-founder of OpenAI. So he basically wants to compete with Google. So he sees this danger of AI, whatever that is. There's a certain danger. We don't have to, this is for another podcast, but there is a danger. Max Tegmark has written an open paper recently about this. So whoever is interested in what exactly those dangers are, please go consult that. But I just want to summarize it and look, we're on a dangerous path here. Let's take a little bit of a break and let's think about it, how we want to regulate this. This is all there is, which I am absolutely in favor of as well. Now let's get back to the early 2000s. So Musk founds OpenAI and wants to frontally compete with Google, which pisses off Larry Page, and that explains why Larry Page subsequently doesn't invest in Tesla. Why even until today they are, let's say, at least not friends, if not even enemies. So this is where we stand. What other irony meets faith kind of thing to add here is that now OpenAI, which is out of the hands of Musk left the place, has now become a real competitor to Google through the collaboration with Microsoft. OpenAI has created the GPT moment, which you can argue about the usefulness of GPT. It is a moment because it is like the ImageNet moment, because it just shows enormous potential for a path towards a more powerful tool, and that's what GPT is. It's not, any kind of artificial general intelligence or anything like that. That's not the point. But it's just a powerful tool, and it's going to proliferate research in large language models. It's going to change the trajectory of how people train models. It's going to change the hardware side. The whole stack is being rewritten because the application, large language models, is successful and successfully solving certain problems. So to summarize, our attendance at the conference in Boston last week, so end of April, early May 2023, was a very good success. Zovinar did a very good job in getting sort of crystallizing what's really important right now, today, in real time, for us as investors, for us as intellectuals and participants in the public conversation about topics such as AI and so on and so forth. And I think, again, the two big takeaways, one is if Nvidia wants to proliferate AI in healthcare, they have to do it themselves to overcome all the barriers and the resistance. They have to do it themselves. So we are waiting to see, hopefully Jensen Huang will decide to do it, can start slow and then grow along the lines of how Amazon did with books, and then later on become a large e-commerce platform. Second, why does Larry Page hate Elon Musk? Because Musk started OpenAI to compete with Google, and to take away this quasi-monopoly that Google was about to build and also built for a long time. And irony meets faith. Today, actually, that OpenAI, which is now not owned or controlled or anything by Musk, is really competing with Google, and that is through the cooperation with Microsoft. Thank you.